This is my persuasive speech on why students shouldn't have to take classes that are unrelated to their majors. When students enter school, they already have enough stress on them, like when are they going to find the time to do their homework, to study, to go to work, take care of their families, and taking classes that are unrelated to their majors can really put some extra stress on them, along with kind of a waste of their time and their money, and overall, it probably isn't going to be beneficial to them or to their careers in the future. Overall, students have a lot to deal with when they come to college, and a lot of professors understand students don't always have financial aid that's going to cover for their books or for a class they may need to take, an important class they may need to take, and especially if a student ends up having to pay for a class that has nothing to do with their major but they need it to graduate, it's not going to help them. It's going to cause extra stress, a waste of their time. It's not going to benefit them. It's not going to benefit their future careers. Overall, for example, actually, like a mechanic, an automotive major wouldn't need to take an anatomy class. Not saying that's required for them, but in general, maybe they wouldn't need to take a theater class, and their advisor tells them that's what they need to take to graduate. Just causes a lot of extra stress. Not saying that you don't need to take maybe a basic English, a comp one, or a prob and stats class, because I could see where that comes in, and I think a lot of people can see where that comes in. But overall, it's not going to help them in the future. It's not going to help their future careers. So first off, it's a waste of a student's time. A lot of students have families or maybe kids or someone that they have to take care of and step up and take care of them, and a lot of students can put off school for that or skip class for that, or just try and focus on their main classes that they need to graduate, but then they have to worry about extra classes that they need to take that's not going to help them in their major whatsoever, and it's a lot of busy work. And even then, some students will just forget that they have those classes, and they're focused so much on the classes that they need to graduate, to get their degree, the ones that they find are most important, that they sometimes can probably forget to do their homework, because I know that I forget sometimes in some classes that I don't really need to do my homework, and they can fall behind, and eventually that could probably keep them from getting their degree, because they would have to retake the class and probably pay for it again, which comes into why that's a waste of money also. But back to the time thing, a lot of students work too, and school work, having to schedule your work around your school schedule can be a hassle in itself, can be difficult for the student, adding some stress on them, adding some stress when they're going to find the time to do all this stuff, because most students, even though they get financial aid, they have to still pay for books. They have to still even pay for some classes that they take because they need them to graduate, but probably won't help them overall in their future careers. So it causes a lot of unnecessary stress on a student, and that could probably even put off some people from going to school because they think they don't have the time to do it. They don't want to take these unnecessary histories, Englishes, even some math. And I'm not saying these classes are not important, because they are very important, but if you have to take a history and you're a surgical tech major, a cardio major, anything like that, a history is really not going to help you in your career. I mean, yeah, you need to know these basic knowledges, but overall, you probably don't need to focus more on history than you would to need to focus on an anatomy class, a microbiology class, just a chemistry class. Those would be more helpful, beneficial to your future career than so a history class would. And second off, it's a waste of money. I know you don't really have to pay for most of these classes, especially if you're a promise student or you get full Pell, financial aid, anything like that. Will cover most of your classes for you, but if you end up putting them off, failing them, withdrawing from them, and you have to retake them again. A lot of times you're going to have to pay out of pocket for that, and some students really can't do that with their money situation maybe, or with their time situation even, and it can be very hard for them. And I mean, classes that are very important to you are not a waste of money ever. School is not a waste of money, but classes that you don't really need to take, but you need to take to graduate, just to graduate, that can be a waste of money, especially for some students who maybe even see it that way, who maybe that even puts them off from going to school because they just trying to find the time, trying to find the money to pay for a class, that it can be very difficult for them. And some students don't even have the money to pay for their books or to pay for their necessary classes if they don't qualify for that much financial aid. That will be very hard for them to find the money that they need to pay for an extra class, just a class that can be considered busy work for them. Now, maybe if you have never taken a history class before, you probably need to take a history class. But I feel, and I'm sure a lot of people feel, like if you went to high school before you went to college and you had to take your basic 4 years of English, 4 years of math, science classes, and your histories and your geographies, you don't need to come to college and relearn everything that you have already learned. If you still know it, if you do well enough on your ACT, Compass test, anything like that, you probably don't need to sit there and relearn it unless it has something to do with your major. Now, a history teacher, you probably need to take your history classes, all of them, but just a major that has nothing to do with history might not need to take a history 1, a history 2, a comp 1, a comp 2, especially if you already know how to do all of that stuff. And especially if you have to pay to take those classes, maybe separately, if that's what you have to do, that can be such a waste of money for students. And like I said again, maybe even make them reconsider school, because a lot of people don't want to have to take those classes in general. Definitely wouldn't want to have to pay for them. And my final reason would be that overall it's just not beneficial to the student. Like I said, waste of time, waste of money, extra causes of stress, and obviously college students don't need anything else to be stressed out about. So overall, it's just not benefiting them, especially if it's taking away from their important classes. If it's taking away from their important classes and they don't do so well in them, but they have to focus on these other classes because they know that they have to have these classes to graduate, and it can be very difficult for them overall. So in general, it's a waste of time, a waste of money. It's just so much extra stress for a student, and they really don't need that in their life, especially because college is not easy and everybody knows that. So having to take classes that are just not going to be beneficial to you, and especially if you have to pay for them, if students have to pay for them, I'm sure a lot of people can agree that that would be very difficult to have to sit there and think about, okay, I don't need to take a history class, but I have to take one to graduate. Do I want to take it in a semester when I have all of these hard classes? Do I need that extra stress? It's not going to be beneficial to them. It's not going to be beneficial to their career, because you're probably not going to have to know, you're probably not going to have to know all about history if you're doing surgery one day. And so in conclusion to all of this, it's just unnecessary for most students, not for all, maybe, especially, I feel like maybe it should be an option that students should be allowed if they want to take this class. If they want to take this class that has nothing to do with their major, then that might be a good option for some students. But for most students overall, it's going to be a waste of their time, their money. Overall, it's not going to be beneficial. It could be very stressful. So I feel like if everybody could maybe think about why we have to take these classes, and maybe find a way to stop making students take these classes that have nothing to do with their major. It could really overall improve students' GPAs and test scores and help them with their actual career instead of stressing them out.